Bureau of Meteorology. The monsoon low is now sitting roughly between Mount Isa and the Gulf of Carpentaria coast, and that extends a trough across the Cape York Peninsula and bringing that moist onshore flow to the Coral Sea coast, particularly around the Herbert and Lower Burdekin, including the Townsville area. The trough is slow moving, and that's why we're getting such big accumulations of rainfall. So the risk is high for the next couple of days, particularly in that Herbert and Lower Burdekin area, including Townsville. We expect the peak in the rainfall to recur again tonight and continuing into next week. So there's several more days to go in this flood event. Current 5-day rain totals for Townsville are the third highest on record, behind 1998 and 1953. Townsville's 7-day rainfall total is roughly around 700 millimetres, and that's less than the record, which is 886 millimetres that was registered in 1998. But there's a good chance, because this event's going to continue for several days, we'll beat the 10-day record for Townsville, which is a total of 925 millimetres, which was observed in 1953. So some big records about to be broken. We've got severe weather warnings and flood warnings out for a lot of the northern part of the state. We've had the severe weather warning for abnormally high tides in the eastern Gulf of Carpentaria, actually the western Gulf of Carpentaria on the Northern Territory side as well, and also the Torres Strait. There's also a severe weather warning out for heavy rain and locally damaging winds for North Queensland west of the Divide, generally over a fairly broad area, where we're expecting 75 to 125 millimetres of rain possible in a 6-hour period. That's some good news actually for people out there because of the drought conditions that have been persisting for so long, so it's welcome rain. However, east of the Divide, it's probably a different story. We're expecting possible falls in the 150 to 200 millimetres, and possibly isolated areas will get 300 millimetres in a 6-hour period. So with several 6-hour periods in a day, we can expect some parts of that coast to get several hundred millimetres of rainfall in a day. For instance, this morning Mount Margaret had 363 millimetres in the 24 hours since 9 a.m. yesterday, and as of 10:30 a.m. this morning it had 415 millimetres in just 24 hours. We've got many flood warnings in place at the moment. Major flood warnings for the Flinders and Cloncurry, major for the Horton River and Garoo, particularly seeing highest levels seen there. A major flood warning for the Herbert, and of particular importance, the major flood warning for the Ross and Bowley rivers, including Black River and Blue Water Creek. Moderate flood warnings for the Isaac River, and the flood watch continues for catchments from Daintree to Mackay, Western Cape York Peninsula and Gulf of Carpentaria catchments. Townsville is currently seeing a record flood height at the Appleton Weir forecast location. Earlier this morning it was a height of 2.36 metres, but we can expect that with the forecast rainfall to reach up to 2.9 metres over the weekend at some stage. It's a rapidly changing situation, so it's really important to stay tuned to all the messages from local authorities, particularly state government authorities, and follow the emergency messages when you receive them. Thank you.
That was one of the senior forecasters in the Bureau of Meteorology here in Queensland. On the screen is a look at the precipitation. It's a GFS model. However, the Bureau of Meteorology has updated their severe thunderstorm warning for heavy rainfall for people in parts of the North Tropical coast, Tablelands, Herbert, Lower Burdekin forecast districts. Intense thunderstorms have been observed over and near Ingham, with further development occurring along the coastal fringe between Tully and Rollingstone. As a result, further intense rainfall is expected over the next few hours within the warning area. Severe thunderstorms likely to produce heavy to intense rainfall, and that will lead significant and dangerous flash flooding in the warning area over the next several hours. And the area under the updated advisory: Palm Island, Ingham, Cardwell, Lucinda, and 200 millimetres of rain has been recorded in a 2-hour period, and 84 millimetres in 30 minutes at Ingham, 101 millimetres in an hour at Cardwell Gap, 65 millimetres in 30 minutes. Bureau Meteorology has in place severe weather warning for damaging winds, heavy rainfall for the northern Goldfields, the upper Flinders, Herbert, Lower Burdekin and parts of the Peninsula Gulf Country, North Tropical Coast, Tablelands, Northwest, Central Coast and now the Whitsundays forecast districts. Intense rainfall with significant flash flooding to redevelop between Rollingstone to BOWEN, including Townsville. Threat for heavy rainfall and damaging wind remains elsewhere. Slow moving monsoon trough lies across North Queensland, extending from Ingham to Hughenden into central parts of the Northern Territory. A deep tropical low is also embedded along the monsoon trough, currently located about 130 kilometres east southeast of the Century Mine. The monsoon flow is expected to further intensify over the remainder of the weekend, resulting in widespread heavy local intense or locally intense rainfall with potential for damaging winds. The monsoon trough is expected to remain active into next week, with further heavy rainfall expected for already saturated catchments. The potential for significant and dangerous flash flooding will likely continue for areas between Rollingstone and BOWEN. For the Herbert and Lower Burdekin, including Townsville, for the remainder of the weekend, heavy rainfall with 6-hourly rainfall totals between 150 to 200 millimetres possible, with concentrated areas of intense rainfall with totals up to 300 millimetres possible, particularly with bands of thunderstorms between Rollingstone and Ingham. BOWEN. Creek and River catchments already saturated and will therefore respond very rapidly to any rainfall, and flash flooding remains a high risk. And in our previous update, we referred to landslides. A number of major flood warnings remain in place, and locations which may be affected include Ingham, Palm Island, Guru, Lucinda, Rollingstone, Townsville, Ayr and BOWEN. Now, chartered towns: Georgetown, Cloncurry, Mount Isa, Hughenden, Kurrayama. Heavy rainfall may lead to localised flash flooding expected over parts of the Gulf Country, the northwest northern Goldfields, the upper Flinders district for the remainder of the weekend, and 6-hourly rainfall totals of between 75 to 125 millimetres remains possible. Locally higher totals possible with bands of thunderstorms about the Gulf coast. Damaging wind gusts up to 100 kilometres an hour also possible to the south of the monsoon trough and a tropical low. monsoonal squalls with gusts of up to 90 kilometres an hour may also develop north of Koyama during Sunday, particularly with thunderstorms. And whilst flood warnings remain for this region, locations which may be affected include Charters Towers, Georgetown, Croydon, Mount Isa, Cloncurry, Julia Creek, Whitsundays, Hughenden and Koyama. And Julius Dam has received 57 millimetres since 9 a.m. today. Now we have a look at the tropical low, Invest 96p, and here's a GFS model run. The monsoon trough currently extends across North Queensland and into the Coral Sea with an embedded tropical low near the Century Mine, as stated. The low is not expected to move eastward into the Coral Sea to become a candidate for tropical cyclone development in the eastern region. Whilst there are no specific tropical lows or tropical cyclone threats are identifiable in the eastern region at this time, the monsoon the trough is expected to remain very active over the coming week, and there remains a slight elevated probability that a tropical low may develop in the Coral Sea next week beyond the current outlook period. And the tropical cyclone formation probability guide, and here's the NOAA floaters of Invest 96p. Regardless of tropical cyclone development, severe weather, major flooding continues across the northern Queensland associated with the current low. And the Bureau via their northern region, including the Gulf of Carpentaria, the monsoon trough is currently situated across northern Queensland. A monsoon low 995 millibars is embedded within this trough south of the Gulf of Carpentaria, and they have percentages for Sunday, Monday remaining very low, but increase it to low on Tuesday, and the low is expected to remain slow moving during the next 3 days. However, there is a slight possibility that it will move into the southern Gulf of Carpentaria during Tuesday. And finally, another look at a second model, and as mentioned previously, there's quite a bit of information. We'll be back in the morning with an updated report.
You can follow Force 13's outlets, the website force13.com, our YouTube page youtube.com/Force13, on Facebook under the same name, Force13, and our Twitter handle, it's @Force13 if you wish to get in touch. You can also add Force13 on Skype and my personal account on Discord, Fool13, at extension 9094.